For years, members of Congress, Republican and Democrat alike, have gouged the taxpayer with secret earmarked spending. Well, he's never sought an earmark. I've experienced John's character firsthand. In 1993, when I was thinking of running for the Senate, I went to John for advice. He convinced me I could help make a difference for our country. I managed to win that election, and with Republican control of Congress, we reformed welfare, we balanced the budget, and we began rebuilding our military. And what I remember most about those days is sitting next to John on the Senate floor as he led battle after battle to change the acrimonious, pork-barreling, self-serving ways of Washington. Now, the United States Senate has always had more than its share of smooth talkers and big talkers. And obviously it still has. But while others were talking reform, John McCain led efforts to make reform happen, always pressing, always working for what he believed was right and necessary to restore the people's faith in their government. Confronting when necessary, reaching across the aisle when possible, John personified why we all came to Washington in the first place. Didn't always set too well with some of his colleagues. Some of those fights were losing efforts. Some were not. But a man who never quits is never defeated. Because John McCain stood up, his country is better off. And the respect he's given around the world is not because of a teleprompter speech designed to appeal to America's critics abroad. It's not because of that, but because of decades of clearly demonstrated character and statesmanship. There has never been a time in our nation's history since we first pledged allegiance to the American flag when the character, judgment, and leadership of our president was more important. Terrorists, rogue nations developing nuclear weapons, an increasingly belligerent Russia, intensifying competition from China, spending at home that threatens to bankrupt future generations. For decades, an expanding government increasingly wasteful and too often incompetent. To deal with these challenges, the Democrats present a history-making nominee for president. History-making in that he's the most liberal, most inexperienced nominee to ever run for president. Apparently, they believe that he would match up well with the history-making Democrat-controlled Congress. History-making because it's the least accomplished and most unpopular Congress in our nation's history. Together, they would take on these urgent challenges with protectionism, higher taxes, and an even bigger bureaucracy, and a Supreme Court that would be lost to liberalism for a generation. This is not reform, and it's certainly not change. It's basically the same old stuff they've been peddling for years. America needs a president who understands the nature of the world we live in. A president who feels no need to apologize for the United States of America. We need a president. We need a president who understands that you don't make citizens prosperous by making Washington richer. And you don't. And you don't lift an economic downturn by imposing one of the largest tax increases in American history. Now, our opponents tell us not to worry about their tax increases. They tell you they're not going to tax your family. No, they're just going to tax businesses. So, unless you buy something from a business like groceries, clothes, or gasoline, or unless you get a paycheck from a business, a big business or a small business, don't worry. It's not going to affect you. They say they're not going to take any water out of your side of the bucket, just the other side of the bucket. That's their idea of tax reform. My friends, we need a leader who stands on principle. We need a president and vice president who will take the federal bureaucracy by the scruff of the neck and give it a good shaking. And my friends, we need a president who doesn't think that the protection of the unborn or a newly born baby is above his pay grade. The man who will be that president is John McCain. Now, in the days ahead at this convention, you'll hear a lot more about what John will do as president.